G'day everyone, it's Glenn from Tacklin's Fish here. I have a video today on a project that I've been working on for some time now with Lake Malawi Peacock cichlids. I've put together a decent collection of about 15 species with a view to breeding for resale first and foremost. Specialty solid bloodlines of pure form peacocks that will appeal to the person that knows what they're looking at, and also a few hybrid style peacocks that are popular in the hobby for colour and display tank purposes. So I'm going to take you through the ones I've got and show you some of the brood stock. It won't be super comprehensive, but hopefully you will enjoy it. See you soon. So welcome to an advanced stage, I guess, of my mental image of the Peacock project, Project Peacock, that I have been working towards for some time now, which is where I have made an effort to collect some nice bona fide lines of peacocks where I can find them here in Australia. Whilst there's still a legal import into the country with the whole COVID thing, and not to mention, don't get me started, the troubles that we go through here in Australia to get aquarium fish in, let alone cichlids. Not that easy to get any more good lineage, and as you probably know, like, peacocks are notorious for hybridisation. It's so important that you keep those lines of fish clean and comparable with what you can find on the internet in terms of the way these fish should look, and that comes back to your ethical breeding and husbandry, in terms of just being very careful with what fish you do and don't mix up. You've got to be willing to cull the ones that aren't right. You've just got to be so careful. Anyway, this was, you know, the mental image is to be able to walk into this room at any time and have fish available, 15 different types of peacock ready to go, so that if I get that knock on the door or the ping and the email of a customer that wants a group of a particular line of fish, that I can say yes, I can help you, and come out to my room and package up whatever it is that it may be. Having said that, not everything in this collection is completely specialised. We've got a couple of the bread and butter style, I guess, box filling fish that might go out in a wholesale order to a pet shop. I'll talk about them in a sec, but it's coming together. I gave this a nice clean on the weekend. There's already a bit of film growing back on the glass, depending on how big the bristle noses are in each tank, but it's coming along. So I'll get into the more detailed discussion and fill you in on who's who in the zoo here. So in our first tank, we're looking at my Aulonocara stuartgranti Undu Reef, commonly known in the trade as a blue neon peacock. This is a couple of females and some juveniles from my previous project, plus a new breeder male which came in as part of the peacock order we did a couple of months ago down here in Tassie. He's a beautiful big fish. I'm just effectively waiting on these guys to get a rotation through a honeymoon tank, and at this time he's playing very nicely with the young ones as they mature. So I can it seems I can leave this project alone, having gotten lucky with a not overly aggressive male. Beneath that group is a group of Aulonocara jacobfreibergi Cape Maclears. These are some juveniles that I bred late last year, and we're starting to see some colour coming through. So this young group are probably getting close to, once again, getting a turn in a rotation in a honeymoon tank. These this line came out of Sydney, and I was incredibly happy with the look of the parents that produced these fish, and I certainly am keen to go again. But I'll show you a tank in a tick that's got what are also being sold to me as Cape Maclear, and I believe they look a touch different. So now I'm a little bit concerned, and I probably have to get on Google and do some more image searches. And like so many things with cichlids, it's always about verification of your lineage and being confident that it is what it is. This is whilst not my cup of tea, the hybrid style peacocks. These fire reds came in once again on that peacock order from 6-8 weeks ago, and these haven't had any colour food now for that time. And what I was aiming to do was identify females, and we can certainly see the pale white fish there. But what has surprised me is how well the colours hung on in some of the others. I was concerned that I would end up with maybe one colourful male and a lot of pasty white fish, but the colour that's in all those males encourages me as something that I probably will persist with to breed, and these can become hopefully a bit of a staple on a wholesale list that your average pet shop's going to be happy with in terms of colourful fish for maybe not your specialist cichlid enthusiast, but just someone that wants that dreaded all-male display tank that I hate so much. Panning across, this is where it's going to get a bit awkward and uncomfortable. We have some juvenile Eureka reds. Once again, late last year's breeding effort. Last 20 or so of these that I'm gradually selling off. I probably, whilst I do want to have Eureka reds in my collection, I will probably not be working with these ones. Just hasn't been enough standout fish in these as juveniles for my liking, so I think I'll try and reinvest in some new stuff when I can. This is hopefully the makings of a colony of stuartgranti Chiloelo, commonly known as the red shoulder peacock in the trade. We've got 8 to 10 fish in this tank, and it does look like it's pretty male heavy, so it's not a bad problem to have from the future breeding point of view, because obviously you can sell any amount of pretty boys off as display fish. The only thing I'm a bit concerned about is it might not breed very effectively out of balance like this, and it then becomes tricky. How many of those punching bag males do you take out before you tip the balance the wrong way and suddenly the females get knocked off? But certainly some nice boys in there, and I do want to persist and try and get a result. Here is a group of young maulana bicolours, and we're doing the same thing here. This is effectively a colony in waiting, and we're just selling out a few spares at the minute. There's a couple of boys evident now, and with a little bit of TLC and a tank to go, shouldn't be too far from getting a result. I do because of the reputation for peacocks as being very ready to hybridise with other Malawi species. That's why a lot of these fish are just sitting here. it's my plan is to produce these effectively is to go into a sort of a form of targeted and scheduled breeding, and that means that I've got to have a bigger tank available somewhere else that fits the bill, and I can move a group of peacocks into a tank with still possibly another species, but without risk of hybridisation. I often tend to favour running my peacocks with some of the Tanganyika and featherfin group because they seem to show a similar habit and get along pretty well. Females clump up and the silly males take up an end of the tank each, and doesn't seem to be much risk of hybridisation there, so that's what I'm sort of working through. Over to a batch of grow out Ngara Flametail peacocks. These are just fish that are for sale. I've got a nice big colony. I'll certainly hold back 6 or 8 of these to just add back to the group in a time. You always want to be freshening up your breeding groups and not getting caught out. Only a couple of young fish in this tank. This is stuartgranti Marleri Island, the sunshine peacock. This is just the last 2 or 3 from the previous mouthful. We've got a female holding up in the breeder tank that I've got to get to soon to release her fry back into this tank, and possibly I'll just throw these 3 little guys back into the colony at that point, just so that they're not going to predate on the new batch, and hopefully I get 30 or 40 growing out in this tank for future sale. This is a tank full of about 8 marble peacocks. Once again, these aren't my cup of tea from a purist point of view, but no denying that they're a good seller on the average wholesale list, so it stands to reason that I have a group of these coming through to pump out 100 or so fry to fill up one of these tanks and to have sitting there to be able to sell out to pet stores as required. This is a very exciting tank to me, despite the way it looks. This is, if you watched one of my original videos, my first fish room tour, this tank has been out of action for the best part of a year, and I've finally got off my bum and pulled the front off it and repaired the leaky seam, which was quite significant, and that's ready for, it's passed its leak test, so we're going to fill that up over the next couple of days, and that becomes another tank for me to dump another variety of peacock in. This group of fish is the second group of Cape Maclears, the one that I mentioned a bit earlier. This is jacobfreibergi Cape Maclear. Got 6 or 8 little juveniles up the front here. This group of fish actually normally lives in my house, but we had carpet done recently and their tank had to be drained, and they've sat out here for a time. And this is the fish that I'm just waiting for that other group to grow up a bit fast so I can sort of compare the pair side by side and the Google images and just be sure of which one I want to move forward with in the future. I don't think I want to mix the 2 lines, because I think the male of this group is just a bit too different to what I remember of my previous group. So it's a bit of a wait and see as to which group of fish I probably flick and work with the other. Now this is a bit of a mixed bag, this tank, but in here we have a new arrival which I'm pretty excited about. A lovely trio of kandensis peacock, Aulonocara kandensis, otherwise known as the blue orchid. and I didn't know that there were too many good ones around in Australia much anymore, but have managed to lay my hands on a group. I've just dumped them in with some yellowtail ACI and a couple of electric blue females, because without knowing how aggressive the male kandensis was, I didn't want him to go nuts on 2 females, because that's all that were coming. So this group of fish are getting along now, and I've got time for some think music as to where I will place the male and work with him in the future. This is a batch of early this year's production of Mbenji peacocks. A couple of Solosi in there that are just, as I do sometimes, dumping a couple of fish that are sort of without current home and purpose, just to hide. So these are all for sale. I do have a nice bloodline of Mbenji peacock in the pipeline that I'll move forward with. These are once again a group of adults that I lost late last year in my power outage, and certainly will get again to have that species on the list. But just at the moment, with COVID and finance, it's been a bit difficult to get some down. Now this is pretty exciting for me. I'm sorry the tank looks a little bit dusty, and this is a really nice group of Aulonocara maylandi, or the Sulphur crested peacock, and these came in last week with the blue orchids that I just mentioned. There's 10 or 11 fish in here, and it's a bit hectic, which is why the water's a bit cloudy. He's keeping that silt sort of stirred up a little bit as he's flexing. There's a very dominant male there and a sub-dominant. These guys, as soon as I can get to it, can be moved. I've got a 200 odd litre tank ready to park these guys into, and I'll probably give them a little bit of light medication just to be sure they're nice and clean, and we're pumping food in, and hopefully they will start to breed real soon. And down the bottom here, last of the 15 grow out tanks is an empty tank bar a little batch of Aulonocara Lwanda, the red top peacock. We haven't had these produced for a little while, so this is sort of the next little crop that we're working on. I like to tumble my eggs in the water where I'm going to let them out. I think I get better results this way than potentially stripping the fish later on and then dumping the fry into a new tank. These eggs weren't anywhere near as far along about 5 days ago. They're starting to really accelerate now, and they should give us a good result. That's my breeder Sunshine male there. He's quite a nice little fish. You might have seen him in another couple of videos along the way. And we've got a large female up the back here somewhere that's holding, so that's, and at least one, there's possibly a couple in here holding. So this is some new stock for me as soon as I can get up on the ladder and get those fish caught. Moving along, mixed in amongst my juveniles colony are some young, wherever they are, stuartgranti Hongi Island Aulonocara stevani, sometimes called. But I've only got about 5 left, and I'm not sure that I'm seeing any colour, so I might have some females that, if I can track down a male, will be a great result, but they might not be a great result if I can't. This tank's always hectic. This is some furcifer, there's a spare furcifer male and some fowie, but that's the star of the show, my Ngara Flametail breeder. always looking good. Always hard to keep on camera for long without my big head in the reflections. And he's certainly got a couple of girls holding at the minute, so should get a result there quickly. This is a group of Aulonocara stuartgranti Cobue. There's about 9 or so fish in here. I've just got to find the boy because the furcifer's out a little bit. Haven't got any fry as yet, and it's been a bit of an issue given that they've been spawning, and sometimes in the fish keeping game when you've got so many fish you don't get up on that ladder and catch those fish in the moment when you should have, and unfortunately some nice fish go by the by. Here we go, at last. Really want to produce these. These came from the same source as the Sulphur crests and kandensis that I mentioned earlier, and can't wait to produce some. This is another young group of fish that we don't have any fry from yet. This is Aulonocara koningsi Mbenji, known as the blue Regal peacock, and I'm really looking forward to breeding some of these. These are quite a nice fish. This tank's just been water changed in the last couple of days, and some new fish introduced, and they're a little bit flighty. Once again, I've missed a few mouthfuls of these as they've sort of started exploring their early breeding, and just because I haven't had that hour or so up my sleeve to get in the tank when I should have. But it's only a matter of time. We're getting all this weird weather still, and fish are very towy and keen. This is my mosh pit of Aulonocara Lwanda, the red tops that were in the egg tumbler. We've got about 10 or 12 fish in this group probably, a few different males, mixed in with a group of Astata tilapia bertoni, which is a Tanganyikan that sort of tricks you and looks like a Victorian. Once again, I'm finding, the habit seems to work well, and not seeing any great problems with the fry that this sort of multicultural polyculture system produces in terms of any hybridization. And here's our empty 4-footer, just waiting for some nice sulphur crest to go in. So I think that's about all in terms of the 15 or so species I'm working with, but this is it's a project that I've been keen to get on the go for some time. That this end wall, as you can imagine, is going to look pretty impressive with 40 or 50 babies of each type growing in. I'd love them all to look like that, just so that I've got stock on hand for both the purest cichlid breeder who might reach out to me and want a group of fish to work with, and of course with the the marbles and the dragon bloods, something that I can pump through the pet shops to keep the lights on and the fish fed. So thanks for your time today, guys, and I hope you enjoyed my little spiel on Project Peacock. Thanks for watching.